Thank you, Speaker. I'm very happy to be able to rise today and speak to this bill, Bill G75, the Ontario Electricity System Operator Act, not necessarily because it's a superior bill, but because it is a very worthy discussion. I'd like to take a moment to explain, some of this act for those in my riding who may be watching this on TV, either now or later, because the cost of electricity is a major issue of concern in the North. In a nutshell, G75 proposes to merge the Independent Electricity System Operator, which is responsible for the day-to-day operations of Ontario's electricity grid, and the Ontario Power Authority, who is responsible for producing and coordinating that supply. Now, that is very much an oversimplification, but I did want to give a very general view of what we are discussing today. These are two of the multiple agencies that were created when the Harris government attempted to privatize our system in the late 90s, and in so doing created a system of overlap and confusion that is very, not only confusing, but also very expensive. Of course, the five others being Ontario Power Generation, Hydro One, the Ontario Energy Board, Ontario Electricity Financial Corporation, and the Electricity Safety Authority. But it all boils down to one thing. Our energy bills are too high. Consumers don't care about the semantics about this organization or that organization. They want action on their hydro bills. We live in an era when the majority of the casework in my constituency office is around hydro bills. Whether it's being unable to afford $2, $3, $4, and sometimes even $700 a month for electricity, or, it's the pain and suffering that's caused by energy retailers who promise the consumers relief and then gouge them for what seems to be, every cent that people have. Energy and hydro is the issue in my region, and it is the issue in my offices, and it's the issue for hardworking people who are struggling to pay their bills because of the mismanagement of our system. And that's why I'm very happy to speak to this bill today. I would, of course, be remiss if I didn't take the time to thank two women in my riding for the outstanding work that they have done on this file. Kelly Getson and Becky Fadouk are the two mothers from Minnetaki, just outside of Dryden, who became fed up with the way that things were going. They were tired of seeing their friends and family members who were unable to pay their hydro bills. They were sick of seeing people living in poverty as a result of the skyrocketing monthly costs of their hydro bills. And Kelly and Becky did something. They took action and they started the Facebook group, Join the Fight Against Hydro One. They planned protest.
Just a moment. I asked the members if they're going to continue their conversation to take it outside. It's very difficult to hear the speakers. You may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. These two women, Kelly and Becky, they planned protests, they did media interviews, and they raised awareness of the problems associated with high hydro bills. And I firmly believe that their actions made a difference because for years we had to listen to the government saying that hydro prices were not an issue. For years we had an energy policy that spiraled out of control. For years we had denials that hardworking families, pensioners, and small businesses were being pushed to the brink because of rising hydro prices. And now we're here today. It's true that the NDP has raised this issue for years, but we finally have an acknowledgement that the costs are out of control because this bill is in front of us, and recent statements made by the minister, I think it's fair to say that we should take a minute to thank Kelly and Becky because we did not get to this point alone. So for that, I thank them very much. It's because of their hard work that there is finally this acknowledgement. So, again, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you on behalf of all of us who are fed up with rising electricity rates. This bill is not the be-all and end-all. In fact, it can best be described as a very small step. It's a half measure. If anything, it's a symbolic half measure. It's no secret that this bill offers only a small part of what New Democrats have been pushing for. It amalgamates 2 of the 7 organizations that were created as a result of the dismantling of Ontario Hydro. New Democrats have pushed for all 7 to be merged into not only a better coordinated policy, but to bring cost savings that will impact the consumer. Savings from this bill are expected to bring $25 million in savings to the system annually. Now, that's what the government's alleging. I don't know if that's actually the case, but they're mentioning, throwing around that figure of $25 million. This does lead me to the point. I want to point out that if we can save $25 million from merging two, how much would be saved from the merger of all seven? And that's one of the improvements I would really like to see. And of course, it is more of a long-term strategy. Now, just to contrast, this $25 million that would be saved by the merger of these two bureaucracies, as of 2011, the amount spent on executive salaries for all the seven bureaucracies is $14 million. That's the Ontario Power Generation. These are just the top 5 executives. As of 2011, they made $4 million. Hydro One, the top 6 executives, they made $3 million. The Ontario Power Authority, the top 5 executives made $2 million. The Independent Electricity System Operators, top 6 executives made $2.5 million. The government's kind of vocal over there. It seems like they're not too happy with these numbers, but they're the ones who are enabling the system and allowing it to continue. The Ontario Energy Board, the top 8 executives made $2 million, and the Ontario Electricity Financial Corporation CEO, the one CEO, made $560,000. Now, let's contrast that to Manitoba. And Manitoba is a sore spot.
Peterborough, to respect the Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. I was about to say, Manitoba and the hydro prices charged in Manitoba are a sore spot for the people living in my riding, because for those of you who've looked at a map, you know that my riding is the most north and the most west, and it borders the Manitoba province. And if you look at their rates, they are drastically, substantially lower than what we're paying here in Ontario. And what's interesting is if you look at how much they pay their top executive, it's $375,000. To me, that is a good salary. That's, by far well in excess of what people on average make in my riding, and I would imagine, it's quite high compared to what the average salary is across the province. That is plenty. Why do we need to spend these millions of dollars on these executive salaries? So if we were to do that merger, and if, we weren't to just keep all those executives, that's $14 million right there that we could save on top of the 25, not even factoring in all of the other efficiencies that we could get. This bill will eliminate much of the overlap that currently exists between the two organizations. But that said, we as New Democrats do have some concerns about the safeguards that currently exist, such as the Ontario Power Authority's power to develop an integrated power system plan and the Ontario Energy Board's power to review that plan for economic prudence, cost effectiveness, and regulatory compliance. Many organizations have raised this concern about this change, and we hope to bring forward some amendments if it makes it to committee. I'm not sure if it'll make it to committee or not, and we'd like to see what kind of enhancements we can make. The IPSP would be replaced by ministerial energy plans, and the minister must consult with the Energy Board in developing that plan. While the change more properly reflects the way that policy has been implemented, there are some concerns, once again, that this will limit input and it could have negative repercussions. And when we talk about the limiting input, that strikes me, we were just yesterday, and I believe earlier today, there was discussion about Bill 50, which is an act to amend the Ambulance Act with respect to air ambulance services. And one of the themes of that bill is openness and transparency. And one of the things I raised yesterday was, it's not just enough to raise openness and transparency in one act. If Orange, if the Mississauga gas plant, if any of these things have taught us, we need to make sure that all legislation coming forward is transparent and is open. So ultimately, our biggest concern is that this bill doesn't go far enough to consolidate the multiple agencies that exist, and in failing to do so, it does leave a number of potential cost savings on the table. And one thing that it does not do, I see I'm really short on time, but I do want to mention it, is it does not force municipalities to give up their municipally owned utilities, which is something that the minister has been pushing for and that we in the North have been fighting vehemently. So I'm quite pleased about that. I have a whole bunch of other things I'd like to mention, but I've run out of time, so I'll try to squeeze it in the 2-minute hits as I get them. Thank you.